For 3,000 years, the galaxy had known peace. Civilizations that once warred had laid down their weapons, joining the galactic concord in an unprecedented era of harmony. The concord spanned hundreds of star systems, each member race, trading knowledge, culture, and technology with their neighbors. Earth, however, was still a wild Cardan upstart, barely integrated into this vast alliance. Humans had only recently stepped onto the galactic stage, their planet's scars from centuries of war still visible from orbit. Many in the Concord dismissed humanity as primitive, or worse, a relic of a violent past unfit for the refined peace of the stars. That complacency was shattered on a crisp Martian morning. A brilliant flash ripped through the thin atmosphere of Mars, followed by an eerie silence. The entire colony was vaporized in an instant, nothing left but an expanding fireball and drifting debris. The Shurva fleet had arrived. From the bridge of the Shurva flagship, Vela's Wrath, High Chancellor. Vela watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. To them, humanity was a minor annoyance, yet their sudden aggression after centuries of peace was a message. The Shurva meant to remind the galaxy that peace was fragile and could be broken. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away in the Galactic Concord's central council chambers, panic gripped the assembly. Ambassadors and military strategists scrambled to understand the implications. How could a species so recently accepted be targeted so brutally? And more importantly, what was Earth's response? At Earth's command headquarters in New Geneva, the answer was unexpected. Instead of fear or fury, humanity responded with laughter. Screens throughout Earth's orbital defense network flickered to life, not with emergency alerts or calls for war, but with a viral human comedy clip, a scene from a decades-old show featuring a sarcastic comedian mocking alien stereotypes. Soldiers, commanders, and civilians watched it on loop, sharing memes and jokes about the invasion. Captain Jenna Harrow, a decorated veteran of Earth's space forces, shook her head as she observed the scene from the command deck of the Vengeance, humanity's newest dreadnought. They think we're scared, she muttered to her XO. They think we're fragile. They don't know what we are. Her voice was calm but resolute, her eyes fixed on the incoming Shurva scout fleet approaching Earth's orbit. Back on the Vela's Wrath, Vela frowned at the broadcasts intercepted from Earth, soldiers laughing in the face of annihilation, jokes about their warships and weapons. The Shurva had expected terror or a swift surrender, not what looked like entertainment. Prepare to engage, Vela ordered, voice cold and steady. Crush their insolence before it spreads. But Earth's response was swifter and deadlier than anyone predicted. As the Shurva scouts closed in, orbital defense platforms powered up massive railguns that had lain dormant for decades, relics of old Earth wars, kept secret from the Concord. For good reason. With precision born from millennia of conflict, human forces unleashed a barrage of fire that tore through the enemy ships like a scythe through wheat. On the SDS Vengeance, Captain Harrow coordinated the attack with practiced efficiency, her team working like a well-oiled machine. Target lock on Shurva Squadron 3. Fire railgun batteries, she commanded. A thunderous boom echoed across the void as the first railgun shot sped toward the enemy, hitting the lead scout ship squarely and sending it spinning into debris. But even as humans won their first skirmish, the war was only beginning. Elsewhere on the moon, a small squad of human commandos moved silently beneath the surface, infiltrating an abandoned Shurva outpost. Their mission: steal advanced technology and learn the enemy's secrets. Corporal Yara Kincaid, glanced at the alien control panel glowing faintly in the darkness. She cracked a grin. We break their toys, they break our peace. Seems fair. Her teammates stifled laughter as they downloaded encrypted data files. Back in orbit, the Galactic Concorde scrambled to respond. Diplomats raced to send urgent messages to Earth, warning them that their reckless defiance could lead to the destruction of the entire solar system. Ambassador Locke, Earth's representative at the Concorde, received the messages with a growing sense of unease. He had spent years trying to bridge the gap between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Now, he wondered if he truly understood the species he represented. Later that evening, Melloc sat in a conference room at Earth Command, facing a group of human military leaders. Jenna Harrow spoke plainly. "We don't want war. But if you attack us, we won't just defend, we'll fight like hell. You want to break 3,000 years of peace. Fine. Just know this. We were built for this." Melloc studied her face, noting the fierce pride and calm certainty. But why laugh? Why not fear? Harrow smiled thinly. "Because we've been through worse. And because, sometimes, the best weapon is not the one you fire, but the one you don't expect." As night fell on Earth, the Shurva fleet regrouped, plotting their next move. They had underestimated humans an error they would soon regret. The galaxy held its breath, watching an ancient peace crack like shattered glass. But on Earth, soldiers shared jokes in their mess halls. Commanders sharpened their strategies with grim smiles. And a people who had survived millennia of conflict prepared to remind the stars why humanity was never just another species. The war had begun. The first dawn after the attack felt different on Earth. Across continents and oceans, screens flickered to life not with anxious news bulletins, but with messages from every corner of the globe. We are at war, but we are ready. At the command bridge of the SDS Vengeance, Captain Jenna Harrow stood poised, her fingers tracing the holomap of the solar system's defense grid. The Shurva scouts were no longer a distant threat. They were pushing deeper into human space. Around her, human soldiers and officers moved with a practiced urgency. The world's oldest weapons had awakened from decades of silence, and the youngest generations were ready to wield them. "Deploy orbital railguns to battery positions," Harrow ordered, voice calm but firm. "Activate AI drones for scout patrols. This isn't a drill." The orbital railguns were relics, remnants of Earth's long-forgotten wars. But their destructive power was undeniably capable of sending projectiles hurtling at fractions of light speed, tearing through enemy hulls. On the moon's far side, engineers and scientists worked furiously to reactivate weapon platforms buried under decades of treaties and disarmament. In underground bunkers, military veterans briefed recruits on tactics forged in fires humanity never forgot. "War is in our blood," Harrow told her officers. "We weren't made for peace, we adapted for survival." Meanwhile, Earth's AI networks went into overdrive. Long-hidden military AIs, preserved and enhanced, merged with living pilots, creating a new breed of warrior, AI-merged combatant. These hybrid soldiers were faster, smarter, and deadlier than anything the Shurva expected. Lieutenant Aidan Vox was one of them. Inside his cockpit, surrounded by data streams and digital voices, Vox felt the AI sync with his instincts. The fusion was unsettling, yet powerful. As the Vengeance's squadron prepared to intercept the advancing Shurva fleet, Vox felt something that humans hadn't felt in centuries. The pure rush of war. Lock weapons, Vox said. His squadron hummed in response. In the blackness of space, the first battle erupted. The Shurva scouts, sleek and merciless, came in waves fast, coordinated and lethal. But human forces fought back with relentless ingenuity. Harrow's voice crackled over the comms. Focus on the command ship. Disrupt their communications. Let's see how they handle a little chaos. Quantum phase lancers, experimental weapons. That bent light and matter punctured the enemy's formation. AI drones swarmed to disable engines, and railgun shells tore through vulnerable points as explosions blossomed across the void. Human pilots exchanged banter over the comms, their voices laced with dry humor. Nice shot, Vox. Bet they didn't expect a kamikaze with a grin, joked one pilot. Hey, if you're gonna die, might as well take the flagship with you. Vox replied, a hint of steel in his voice. The flagship Vela's wrath shuddered under the barrage. Vela's fury grew. They laugh while dying, Vela snarled. This is no ordinary enemy. On Earth, news networks broadcast live footage from the battles, mixing footage of combat with clips of soldiers laughing, sharing memes and cracking jokes. Across the galaxy, Concord diplomats watched in disbelief. How could a species facing extermination behave so unconventionally? Ambassador Melloc, sitting in the crowded council chamber, pinched the bridge of his nose. They're unpredictable, dangerous. Back on the battlefield, Harrow pushed her fleet harder. They think this is a game, she told her ex. Oh, let's show them how humans play. In the asteroid belt, human forces launched a daring ambush. Using debris as cover, they struck at a Shurva squadron's flank, turning the ambush into a rout in the heat of battle. Corporal Jada Kincaidescum crackled. Command, we've captured Shurva tech from the last raid. Encryption's heavy, but we're decoding. Good work, Kincaid. Every scrap helps, Harrow replied. This was not just a war of firepower, it was a battle of wits. With stolen technology, Earth scientists adapted alien designs, turning Shurva weapons against their creators. On the ground, civilians rallied behind the military. Resistance cells formed, training in old guerrilla tactics. Humans who had once been farmers, engineers, and artists now donned armor and weapons, ready to defend their world. Despite the chaos, Earth's leaders maintained a singular message. We fight, but we don't surrender. The Shurva fleet reeled from the unexpected ferocity. Their commanders sent urgent messages. Pull back, regroup. Vela, consumed by pride and fury, refused. We will crush this insolent species before they become a threat. But humanity had changed the game. The first victory was not just a tactical win, it was a statement. When the dust settled, the Vela's wrath lay crippled, drifting among shattered debris. Earth's forces had lost ships and lives, but the enemy's blow had been broken. Captain Harrow allowed herself a rare smile. This is just the beginning, she said quietly. They broke peace, but we're made for war. Above Earth, satellites blazed with warnings and battle data, but also with laughter, human laughter echoing into the void. And somewhere in the galaxy, a new message spread. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They fought not with fear, but with fire. Ambassador Melloc sat in the dim glow of the Earth Command intelligence chamber, eyes fixed on the flickering holoscreens before him. The data they'd recovered from the Shurva tech raid was impressive, but what truly held his attention was something else, the trove of historical records and cultural archives. Earth had willingly shared under the Concord Treaty. Melloc had spent years trying to understand humans, their strengths, their weaknesses, their strange mixture of hope and stubbornness, but nothing prepared him for the brutal truth buried in the past. He summoned a human historian, Dr. Mara Levin, to walk him through the darkest chapters of humanity's history. Levin's voice was steady but heavy with the weight of memory. 3,000 years ago, Earth was a fractured planet. Nations rose and fell in wars so devastating that they almost ended civilization. Nuclear winters, AI uprisings, pandemics, they all nearly wiped us out. Melloc absorbed every word. On screen, holomages played, mushroom clouds blooming over cities, scorched battlefields, desperate refugees fleeing collapsing governments. "You survived that," Melloc said, incredulous. Levin nodded, barely. But humanity learned to adapt, to rebuild from the ashes. We engineered ourselves to survive in hostile worlds terraforming Mars, colonizing moons, building resilient habitats in orbit. War forged our technology and sharpened our instincts. Melloc's brow furrowed. But why continue to fight? Why not embrace peace? Levin's eyes flickered. We tried. For centuries, we tried. But peace came and went like a fleeting dream. Every time we thought we'd tamed our nature, something pulled us back. Fear, pride, survival, instinct. She gestured toward another screen. "Look at this." The holo shifted to recordings of humanity's most violent conflicts, the global wars of the 21st century, the rebellions on Mars, even footage of humans laughing during combat, cracking jokes over gunfire. Melloc swallowed. They're laughing, while dying. That's the strangest part, Levin admitted. Humans don't laugh because they're fearless. They laugh because they know the absurdity of warfare, chaos, the pain, and they refuse to be broken by it. Humor is our weapon as much as our guns. Melloc's thoughts raced. If humanity was shaped by conflict, perhaps their recent reaction to the Shurva attack, their laughter, their defiance was more than bravado. It was an ancient survival instinct. Suddenly, a communications alert beeped. A transmission from Captain Harrow. Melloc activated the channel. "Ambassador, we have intel on the Shurva fleet's next move." Harrow's voice came crisp and commanding. "They're planning a heavy assault near Proxima Centauri. We're preparing a counterattack." Melloc nodded, sensing the gravity behind her words. "We underestimated them," he said quietly. Harrow's voice hardened. "They underestimated us first." As the call ended, Melloc pondered humanity's place in the galaxy. The Concorde had believed in peace through diplomacy and cooperation. But humans, it seemed, were something else entirely, a species forged in fire, unyielding and unpredictable. That night, Melloc reviewed intercepted Shurva communications captured during the recent battles. The messages were filled with confusion and fear. "They don't understand us," one Shurva officer complained bitterly. "They are monsters hiding behind laughter." Another message made Melloc shiver, a coded warning. "If they laugh, they are not afraid. If they are not afraid, then we have already lost." Words spread quickly across the Concorde. Some leaders feared humanity's brutal past made them too dangerous to be trusted. Others saw the fierce resolve as a reason to strengthen alliances with Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, soldiers prepared for the coming battle with grim determination. Corporal Yara Kincaid and her squad studied the stolen Shurva technology. The encryption was formidable, but human engineers were already adapting alien systems to create new defensive measures. "We've learned from them," Kincaid said, "and soon we'll teach them a lesson they won't forget." At the military base, Harrow convened her officers. "We know what's coming," she said, eyes flashing. "This won't be a war of diplomacy. It will be a war of survival. But remember this: every human who stands today carries the strength of thousands of years of survival in their blood." Her words resonated. These were not soldiers fighting for glory, they were fighters defending the legacy of an ancient, relentless species. As the countdown to the Proxima Centauri engagement began, Earth held its breath, but the laughter never stopped. Asterisk, the void around Proxima Centauri crackled with tension. Two fleets faced off, the Sherva S sleek, lethal warships shimmering in the darkness, and Earth's ragged but determined armada gleaming with makeshift modifications born of desperation and genius. Captain Jenna Harrow stood on the bridge of the SDS Vengeance, eyes scanning the holomap that pulsed with hundreds of ships locked in a deadly dance. Around her, the hum of battle was a cold reminder. This was no longer a war of words, but one of survival. Enemy fleet closing in, her tactical officer reported, voice steady but urgent. Harrow nodded. "Prepare the railguns. Focus on their command ships and engine cores. We cripple their mobility, then pick them apart." The crew moved with precision, the air thick with anticipation and adrenaline. Suddenly, a voice cut through the comms, sharp and intense. "Lieutenant Aiden Vox, Captain. AI sync ready. Initiating combat merge." Harrow's gaze sharpened. "Understood, Vox. Good luck." Vox's sleek fighter slipped into the fray. Merging with its onboard AI, his senses expanded, the cockpit's displays a blur as digital overlays merged with his reflexes. He was faster, smarter, stronger. The enemy flagship loomed ahead, the Vela's Wrath, bristling with weaponry and shields. "Lock on primary target," Vox said, voice calm amid the chaos. Firing quantum disruptor, a blinding pulse burst. Fourth, shaking the Vela's Wrath, the Sherva flagship faltered, shields flickering under the unprecedented assault. But Vela was no fool. His ship twisted, unleashing a volley of plasma bolts and ion mines. Vox weaved through the storm, laughter crackling over his cum. "Come on, old friend, try to keep up." Back on the Vengeance, Harrow smiled grimly. "That's our edge and predictability. They expect fear, but we give them defiance." Amid the battle, chaos reigned. Explosions rippled across the void as ships collided, fired, and evaded with desperate energy. Human pilots joked, overcomes even as their ships were torn apart. "Got a plasma bolt in my fuel line," one pilot quipped. "If I die, tell my dog I love her." Laughter was their armor. On the ground, in the command center, technicians worked feverishly to monitor the battle. Reports came in. Sherva ships were crippled, but human losses were mounting. Suddenly, a priority alert. The Sherva launched a counterstrike aimed at Earth's orbital defense stations. Harrow's eyes narrowed. "We can't lose the railguns. If those fall, the whole system collapses." She ordered a squadron to intercept the incoming strike. The sky above Earth shimmered with incoming fighters and missiles. Human interceptors met them head-on, engaging in brutal dogfights over the planet's thin atmosphere. On the Vengeance, Harrow coordinated with ground defenses. "All units, hold. The line will burn their fleet to cinders before they touch the surface." In the thick of battle, Lieutenant Vox made his choice. His AI interface warned him the mission was suicidal ramming. The flagship could mean death. But he answered with a cold grin. "Some things are worth the sacrifice. His fighter accelerated, weaving through fire to crash into the heart of the Vela's wrath. A massive explosion tore through the enemy flagship, crippling its command systems. The cost was high. Vox's fighter was destroyed, and the loss reverberated through the fleet. Captain Harrow's voice softened, but her resolve did not waver. Lieutenant Vox gave everything today. We honor that by winning this war. The Sherva fleet faltered. Without their flagship, coordination broke down. Human forces pressed the advantage, shattering enemy formations. But the battle was far from over. An urgent transmission came through. Crackling with tension. Captain, new intel. The Sherva are preparing to deploy a secret weapon, powerful enough to annihilate entire colonies. Harrow's jaw clenched. Prepare for worst. We can't let them get the upper hand. As the stars shimmered coldly beyond the viewport, Earth's defenders steeled themselves. They had faced extinction before, and now, on the edge of annihilation, they would fight harder than ever. The shattered remnants of the Sherva flagship drifted like a tomb among the stars. Its destruction a brutal blow to the invaders, but far from the end of their threat. Captain Jenna Harrow stood in the SDS Vengeance's command center, her gaze locked on a new set of incoming transmissions. The message was terse and chilling. The Sherva planned to unleash a devastating superweapon, hidden deep within a remote asteroid field near the Orion sector. If unleashed, it could vaporize entire human colonies in minutes. Commander, prep a strike team, Harrow ordered, voice steel. We need to find and destroy that weapon before it's too late. On board the Vengeance, soldiers and scientists scrambled to outfit the elite task force. Corporal Jara Kincaid, freshly returned from her tech raids, was chosen to lead the ground assault. Her squad had proven time and again that humans thrived in the chaos of close-quarters battle. We're not just fighting ships out there, Yara reminded her team as they loaded into the assault shuttles. We're fighting for every family, every home, no backing down. The mission was perilous. Infiltrate the asteroid field, locate the secret weapon, and neutralize it before the Sherva could activate it. As the shuttles descended toward the asteroid belt, the crew stared out into the swirling cloud of rock and ice. The field was treacherous gravity anomalies, hidden mines, and electronic interference made navigation deadly. Stay sharp, Yara said, overcomes. They'll expect us, but they won't expect how hard we'll fight. Inside the command shuttle, Captain Harrow coordinated from orbit, monitoring the mission's progress with a mixture of hope and tension. She knew the importance of this strike, not just tactically, but symbolically. Humanity had weathered blows before. This was their chance to prove the Sherva had underestimated them once again. The shuttles dropped into the asteroid field, weaving expertly through jagged rocks and swirling debris. The ground assault team moved swiftly, their suits equipped for low-gravity, combat, and stealth. Suddenly, sensors picked up a massive energy signature deep inside a cavernous asteroid. There, Yara whispered, eyes narrowing. That's our target. The squad advanced cautiously, navigating tunnels etched with alien technology. The walls hummed with power, and a faint pulse echoed through their suits. Then they saw it, a colossal device, an unnatural fusion of energy, cores and weapon arrays, unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Sherva Superweapon Yara confirmed grimly. This thing could end entire colonies in one blast. She sent the coordinates to Captain Harrow, back on the Vengeance. Harrow's mind raced. Disabling the device would require precision and speed. Waiting for reinforcements was not an option. Haro said firmly, "You'll need to plant charges at the core. We'll give you cover fire from orbit, but the rest is on you." Yara's voice was steady. "Understood. We'll give them hell." As the team moved into position, the cavern began to shift. Shurva sentinels hulking, armored drones activated, blocking their path with deadly precision. The firefight was brutal. Plasma bolts lit the cavern, and explosions rocked the walls. Yara and her squad fought with relentless determination, each step forward a testament to humanity's refusal to yield. "Keep pushing," Yara urged, dodging fire and returning shots. Her squadmate Jox took a hit and fell, but Yara dragged him to cover. "We finished this for Jox." Minutes felt like hours as the battle raged. Finally, they reached the core, a pulsating heart of energy and destruction. Yara set the charges with practiced hands, her breath steady despite the chaos around her. "Charges set," she reported. "Extraction point." "On its way," Haro replied. As the squad retreated, the cavern began to tremble, the charges detonating in a controlled sequence. The superweapon exploded in a blinding burst, sending shockwaves through the asteroid field. Rock and debris scattered into space as the energy core fractured and died. Back on the Vengeance, Haro allowed herself a rare moment of relief. "We did it," she whispered, but victory was bittersweet. The cost was high lost, soldiers, wounded friends, and the stark reminder that the Shurva's resources and cruelty ran deep. Still, as Earth's forces regrouped, something deeper stirred. The ancient blood of humanity, honed by centuries of war and survival, was beginning to awaken, not just as fighters, but as strategists, engineers, and leaders who could shape the future of the galaxy. Ambassador Malok, watching from the Concord chambers, realized that humanity's defiance was more than stubbornness. It was a warning. The galaxy had underestimated Earth's greatest strength, its unbreakable spirit. The Orion asteroid field's explosions faded into the cold void, but the echoes of battle lingered in the minds of those who survived. Captain Jenna Haro's ship, SDS Vengeance, emerged from the chaos battered but victorious. The destruction of the Shurva superweapon had saved countless lives, but it had only sharpened the enemy's fury. Haro paced the bridge, eyes fixed on the comp screen where urgent messages streamed in from across human space. The Shurva were regrouping, adapting their tactics, and preparing to strike back with renewed ferocity. "We've made them angry," her tactical officer said, voice tense. Haro nodded, gripping the rail of her command chair. "Good. Anger makes mistakes. We'll use it." Meanwhile, on Earth, political leaders and military strategists convened in a secure war council. Ambassador Melloc, still watching from the sidelines, noted the stark contrast to the serene diplomacy of the Concord. Humanity's leadership was raw, blunt, and relentless traits that both disturbed and fascinated him. Dr. Mara Levin, the historian, addressed the council. "Humans have an edge. No one else does. It's not just technology or weapons. Their unpredictability. They think in chaos, and that chaos gives them the advantage." A sharp-eyed general added, "Their enemies try to predict them, but humans don't follow patterns. They improvise, adapt, and turn even their losses into lessons." Back in space, Lieutenant Aiden Vox's sacrifice had become a rallying cry. Stories of his final act spread among the fleets and ground forces alike, inspiring a fierce resolve in a training simulator aboard the Vengeance. New recruits repeated the mantra: laugh in the face of death, fight with every breath. Among the new recruits was a young pilot named Sierra Loon, her eyes bright with determination. She had grown up hearing stories of Earth's ancient wars and the recent Shurva battles. Now she was ready to write her own chapter. Her instructor, a grizzled veteran, said, "You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for a species that refuse to die. Remember that." As preparations for the next battle intensified, Earth's scientists made a startling breakthrough. They discovered traces of an ancient, lost human technology buried deep beneath the planet's cruster, weapon system of unprecedented power. Harrow was briefed on the development. "This could be the key to turning the tide," she said, voice low. "If we can awaken it, the Shurva will learn the true meaning of human resilience." But activating the weapon required a risky expedition into the Earth's most dangerous regions. Now crawling with Shurva infiltrators and spies, Yara Kincaid volunteered for the mission. "If we're going to win this, we need every advantage. I'll lead the team." The council agreed, but warned of the risks. "Failure means losing not just a weapon, but hope," Levin cautioned, as Yara's team ventured into the shadows of Earth's deep underground. They encountered unexpected allies, remnants of old human factions thought extinct, survivors who had hidden for generations. These groups brought unique skills and knowledge, ancient combat techniques, forbidden technologies, and a fierce hatred for the Shurva. With their help, Yara's squad penetrated deeper into the underground labyrinth, where the weapon lay dormant, an artifact of humanity's forgotten past, waiting for a new generation to awaken it. But the Shurva were not far behind. The air still seething from the loss of his flagship and the destruction of the super weapon unleashed brutal countermeasures. His spies had infiltrated Earth's defenses, sabotaging communications and striking from the shadows. In space, ambushes became routine, and trust became a rare commodity. Harrow felt the pressure mounting. "We're fighting a war on two fronts," she told her officers. "In space and on Earth, we have to hold fast." As the underground mission neared its climax, Yara's team faced their greatest challenge, yet a labyrinthine fortress guarded by war machines and traps designed to kill. The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. Every member fought with the raw courage and cunning that had defined humanity for millennia. In the end, Yara reached the weapon's core. Activating it sent a pulse of energy rippling through the planet, a signal of hope and power. Back on the Vengeance, Harrow felt the shift. "We have our edge," she said, voice steady. "Now, let's show the galaxy what humans are really made of." The pulse from the ancient weapon echoed through Earth's core, a low hum vibrating beneath the feet of every soldier, scientist, and citizen. Across the solar system, ships that had once been fragmented and beaten now seemed to pulse with renewed strength, their systems humming in tune with the forgotten technology rekindled by Yara's daring expedition. Captain Jenna Harrow stood at the helm of the SDS Vengeance, eyes burning with fierce determination. The battlescape outside her viewport was awash with activity. Fleets maneuvered with precision, coordinated by the newfound tactical advantage the ancient weapon's power had unlocked. But the VA were relentless. Vela's voice crackled. Over the comes a cold, ruthless taunt. "You may have awakened an old relic, humans, but you will still fall. Your defiance is a brief candle before the void." Harrow's grip tightened. "We'll see who burns out first." Far above the battle, Lieutenant Sarah Loon took her fighter into the fray. Her youth and fiery spirit were tempered by the memory of stories told to her of Earth's history, of Aidan Vox's sacrifice, of the relentless human will that never broke. Eyes sharp, she whispered into her "Come. Let's make this count." The Shurva fleet surged forward, attempting a full-scale assault on Earth's orbital defenses. Plasma blasts lanced through space, and fighter squadrons collided in deadly dogfights. But humanity was ready. The ancient weapon broadcasted pulses that disrupted Shurva shields and navigation, turning their precision strikes into chaotic volleys. On the ground, Yara Kincaid's team held the underground fortress, repelling a fierce Shurva counterattack, aimed at destroying the reactivated weapon system. "We hold here," Yara commanded, voice steady despite the storm of battle. "No retreat." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The cavern shook violently, a massive shockwave rippling through the tunnels. "Earthquake," a soldier gasped. "No," Yara answered grimly. "Enemy sabotage." The Shurva had detonated explosives deep within the planet, aiming to bury the weapon and its protectors forever. As the ground cracked and rubble fell, Yara rallied her team to hold their positions and complete the weapon's activation sequence. Up in orbit, Captain Harrow coordinated the defense, balancing offense and protection, knowing that the fate of the planet depended on both battles above and below. The fight was brutal. Fighters fell, ships were lost, but the human spirit blazed brighter with every strike in the midst of chaos. Harrow received a distress signal from Yara. "We're trapped." Yara's voice was strained but resolute. "The detonation's blocked. Our exit routes. We're initiating manual core stabilization. It's the only way." "Hold on," Harrow responded. "Reinforcements en route." But reinforcements were miles away, caught in the thick of the fleet battle. In the moments that followed, Yara and her team synchronized with the weapon's core, channeling their will through the ancient systems. A brilliant pulse erupted from Earth's core, radiating into space. A beacon and a weapon combined. The Shurva fleet recoiled, their ships buffeted by unseen forces as the energy washed over them. Vela's flagship was caught in the blast. Systems failed, weapons went silent, and the great ship drifted helplessly. The tide had turned. Across the battlefield, humanity fought with renewed vigor, exploiting the chaos to push the Shurva into retreat. On board the Vengeance, Harrow allowed herself a brief smile. This is the reckoning they never expected. But even as the Shurva faltered, Harrow knew the war was far from over. "This fight," she said, "is just the beginning of a new chapter. One where humanity will no longer be underestimated." Ambassador Melloc, watching the final moments of the battle, felt a profound respect for the species he'd once doubted. Humans had broken 3,000 years of fragile peace, not out of cruelty, but because survival demanded it. And they had fought, not with despair, but with laughter, defiance, and unbreakable hope. As the stars settled and the dust of battle cleared, one truth was clear. Humanity's story was far from over. It had only just begun. The stars glimmered coldly against the backdrop of space. But on Earth and across human colonies, a fire burned brighter than ever, a fire born from struggle, sacrifice, and an unyielding will to survive. Captain Jenner. Harrow stood on the bridge of the SDS Vengeance, watching the Shurva fleet retreat beyond the outer edges of human space. The enemy ships limped away, shattered and broken, their arrogance shattered like glass. For the first time in centuries, humanity was victorious, not just in battle, but in proving something deeper, that their laughter in the face of death was no act of madness, but a declaration of life itself. On the ground, Corporal Yara Kincaid and her squad emerged from the underground labyrinth, battered but unbroken. The ancient weapon beneath Earth had been fully reactivated, its power now a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. As Yara gazed upward through the rocky fissures toward the distant sky, she knew the fight had changed humanity and the galaxy forever. Back on Earth, political leaders met once again, this time with a newfound respect for what their people had accomplished. Ambassador Melloc was present, a rare smile touching his lips as he addressed the assembly. 3,000 years of peace shattered by your unexpected attack, he said quietly. Yet what I witnessed was not cruelty, but a species that refused to be extinguished. Your laughter, your defiance, they are the true weapons of your survival. Mara Levin stepped forward, her voice firm. Humans are a paradox. We are creators and destroyers, warriors and diplomats. This war forced us to remember who we are: ancient survivors, who laugh to keep from crying, who fight to protect hope. Harrow's voice joined, resolute and clear. We fought not because we wanted war, but because we had no choice. And now we stand ready not just to defend, but to shape the future of this galaxy. The Concord Council, once wary of humanity's fierce nature, began to reconsider their stance. New alliances formed, built on respect for Earth's spirit. In the quiet aftermath, Sarah Loon and her fellow pilots trained harder than ever. The stories of Aidan Vox's sacrifice became lessons in courage and honor, passed down to every recruit. Humanity had learned that peace was fragile, but so was their will to protect it in the far reaches of the galaxy. Scattered Sherva commanders regrouped, licking wounds and planning revenge. But the memory of Earth's unyielding laughter haunted them. Reminder that some enemies could never be broken. Captain Harrow looked out at the stars one last time before setting course for home. We've won a battle, not the war, she murmured, but as long as we stand together, no force in the universe can break us. And so, a new dawn rose over Earth and beyond, a dawn of hope, resilience, and the promise that humanity's story was just beginning. For in the face of overwhelming odds, humans did not fall. They laughed, they fought, they survived, and they would continue to do so forever.